I'd like to call this May 27th meeting of City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg. Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember McBride.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekins. Councilmember Tinkler. Councilmember Bowden. Councilmember Appel. Councilmember Parker. Mayor Cogswell.
I'd now like to ask Councilman McBride to give the invocation and lead everybody in the pledge.
If you bear with me a little bit, this prayer is going to be a little bit longer. This is in honor of Memorial Day, which was this past weekend. Heavenly Father, we gather here after this Memorial Day weekend with reverent hearts, seeking your divine grace. We honor those thousands of military veterans who, in service to this great nation, embodied your truth. In John 15, verse 13, greater love hath no man than this, that a person will lay down his life for his friends. Their selfless sacrifice in the crucible of conflict has preserved our nation's liberty, ensuring that our freedom endures. Many a soldier, sailor, airman, coast guardsman, and marine in times of peril have recited many a prayer. A common one has been Psalm 23, verse 4, which boldly declares, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you, God, are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Yet before and since our nation's founding, many thousands have fallen in battle, enveloped by darkness, as they bravely stared into the abyss of evil in defense of a cause they believed to be righteous. But as is written in John 1, verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. We lift up the fallen, commending their souls to your eternal embrace, God. May the light of their courage illuminate our path, guiding us to wisdom, unity, and justice. To the families, widows, orphans, and comrades who mourn, Lord God, pour out your boundless comfort. Bind their broken hearts with your love, sustain them with hope everlasting. Guide us, Lord, to live daily lives worthy of their sacrifice, fostering love and healing and healing division under your providence. May we walk boldly in your truth, united as one people in the spirit of e pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many, one, meaning many people from different places and backgrounds, but everyone created with equal dignity in the eyes of God, unified by the idea of equal liberty to make one great nation. For that is the very cause for which so many of our brave warriors died, so that we may be free. Hear our prayer, O God, and grant us your peace through Jesus Christ, our Savior, who himself died for all of our sins so that we may have eternal life. Amen.
Okay, believe it or not, we do not have any presentations or recognitions tonight, but I do want to give a shout out to former Councilman Lewis, who was in the audience with us here. He served a number of years on council. I'm not going to tell you how many, but glad to have you back. We're now on to public hearings. We've got 9 items on the agenda tonight. There is one amendment to item number 5. The owner of the property, there's a typo. The owner of the property is Marquis Moon LLC. So on the first one, we have, I believe, are you going to be presenting on it? Yeah. Matt Fountain's going to present on the first one. Ms. Copeland is going to present on the second one, and then Christopher Morgan will be presenting on the balance. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Fountain. I will take it from there.
Thanks, Mayor. So the first item is the amendment to the stormwater ordinance that was discussed in Public Works Utilities Committee at our previous meeting. This is related to our stormwater utility fee that's currently $11 per month for an equivalent residential unit. The ordinance amendment intends to adjust the billing from currently being billed through the CWS water bill account to instead being billed through the county property tax offices. We will have IGAs with the 2 counties. Those will come for second reading, presuming that we receive first reading this evening. The shift in the accounts will change billing from being through a CWS account holder to being the property owner for each property within the city. Other than that, it will be the same rate for those bills. So the other component to the amendment I think is worth pointing out is it leaves the billing through the CWS account on a monthly basis through the end of this year. But then the billing period for 2026, the calendar year of 2026, will be billed on the tax bill that you would receive at the end of this year. So in the 2025 tax bill, you would receive a utility fee component on that bill to cover you for the 2026 year. And this is still it is still acting as a fee. It would not be part of your property tax. It's just billed through that same system.
Okay, we'll hold questions, or do we want to, we'll hold questions until, let's have all the presentations. Ms. Copeland, you got item 2.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is a product of a request for a public hearing to be set, Public Works, I think maybe in March. This is a 40-foot section of Shepherd Street that dead ends into Meeting. And in this actual abandonment request is a product of an MOU the city entered into with Eastline Partners back in 1999, or no, excuse me, 2020. One of the conditions of this abandonment was that Eastline also had to work out a deal with SCDOT to buy an adjacent piece of this, which they accomplished that in 2023. So that's why they are here for you today. So we would request that council approve abandonment for this section.
Okay, turn it over to Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. Okay, number 3 is rezoning at 1735 Hollydale Court on Johns Island. This is to bring this property that essentially contains a stormwater detention pond and some right-of-way into zoning conformance with the adjoining business park area that you see in the kind of reddish color there to the above the property that's in yellow. We'll go through the slides here. You can see, again, the stormwater pond that's on it at present. And in our comprehensive plan, it's part of the city centers on Johns Island. So it would make sense that it would be part of that business park zoning to the rear. And then we move on to the next item, which is number 4, 106 Cumming Street and a portion of 99 St. Philip Street. This is property that's owned by the College of Charleston. It was made into a PUD when it was privately owned by a developer who then sold it to the College of Charleston for purposes of creating dorm space here. The college also owns a former condominium development at the corner of Vandrost and St. Philip that will be adjacent to all of this. And the height change would go on the areas that are occupied by the old YWCA property that will have to go through a BAR process, and parking lot areas. And those are shown in that kind of aqua green color on this image here, the areas that would be changed with the height district. Because it's a height district request that's above 1 extra story, it needs to come through the city as the requester because of the way the height regulations are written. But we've been working together with the College of Charleston on this to come up with what we think will be a good plan for them to create more on-campus housing in this location, as opposed to a lot of the housing that's still going on within the neighborhoods. It'd be more convenient for the students and better for the neighborhoods as well. This is an image, again, that kind of zooms into the height districts. You see that there's a large parking deck that has the 5 on it. That's in a 5-story parking, in a 5-story height district. It's a very large structure. These greater heights on this site would be adjacent to that large structure. And then they would also recede as they come out to Vandrost and to Cumming Street. This image also shows the current YWCA building, which is a 1-story building in the middle of the property. And then you see the proposal for the 4-story along Cumming Street, backing up to 8-story, and then a 5-story segment along Vandrost that's adjacent to other 5 stories that exist at present. And we'll show you some images from the street level too. Here's just an aerial image of the parking areas in the old YWCA, the large parking deck that fronts on St. Philip Street. And all of this also backs up to the fairly large buildings that are the old AT&T or Bell South buildings that front on Calhoun. Just some images. There's the YWCA on the right, just views up Cumming Street. This is views of St. Philip Street, and then also of Vandrost with the 5-story current structure along Vandrost. And these are some conceptual drawings. This is not what the actual building would look like. This is the maximization of the heights that are being proposed. They will, of course, sculpt these much more. They'll work with the BAR to make sure the buildings are sensitive to the surrounding neighborhood, but this is the actual maximum extent that these heights would allow for. And again, you'll see that setback from the frontage along Cumming Street and the frontage on Vandross Street, so that as you walk by on the street, I believe we have an image that gives you a little bit more of a sense of that. Most of that extra height would be masked by the lower levels. And again, this would all go through the BAR for all that sculpting and the character and the attention to detail. And here's a view of Vandross Street. Again, the 5-story structure that is already in that location as well. This is in our neighborhood designation in our comprehensive plan. Had it been part of the college campus at the time the comprehensive plan was put together, it would have been part of the college's campus designation, which is the light blue, but at that time it was privately owned by the developer. And Planning Commission has endorsed that change as well. Then we have an item at 126 Romney Street. This is a rezoning. This is a request to go from DR1F to limited business. And as you look at the block here, you'll see this block is a real mix. This is Romney Street, that the property that's outlined in black is shown. It's a mix of DR1F, general business, and also some limited business. There are churches in these blocks. There are commercial structures, vacant lots. So it's a whole mix in an area that is now carrying a good bit of traffic because of the signals that are at Romney and King and the signals that are at Romney and Meeting, and just overall growth and development in the surrounding area. This is an aerial image. This is a vacant lot that's up for the rezoning. You see the central mosque that's up at the corner of Romney and King. Again, some other smaller churches and larger churches towards King Street as well. And here's some images on the ground. You can see the vacant lot here. This is on the right is across the street. You see the I-26 bridges in the distance. You see a building that is immediately adjacent to the subject property that has a X from the fire department because it's got structural issues. And then you see a newer structure being built to the left. You see the little Z, that's the subject property with the vehicle parked next to it. That is rental housing that's been built adjacent to this, to the east, but to the west side. And just a little bit closer here, images of the property. And this is in our city centers in our comprehensive plan. So that justifies the increase in the density by virtue of going to the limited business. And again, we find other commercial districts within the same block. And this also, just to update you, this was reviewed by the Planning Commission. There was a recommendation for approval, but it failed 4-5. The Planning Commission is 9 members. They did not take another vote on it. So it comes to you without a recommendation, essentially, because that vote failed. This would be parking that would help with an adjoining redevelopment at a church property. But it could be in the future also buildings, but the immediate use would be parking there. And then we've got a very simple amendment to our zoning code that relates to some section changes that are going on in our overall section, where our department name would change from Planning Preservation Sustainability to Planning Preservation. And then another ordinance amendment that relates to pools and utility platforms needing to meet some of our side and rear setback criteria that they have not been required to have in the past. There are a number of pictures that are in your agenda packages. Suffice to say that we haven't had as many setback requirements as other jurisdictions, and now we're going to have some more of those because we're seeing more and more pools that have vertical elements and aren't just in the ground. And you see these images here. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. The Planning Commission recommended approval of these changes as well. And just, again, more logical locations for utility platforms. Then we have some recent annexations. We have Agatha Street, 1424 Agatha Street would come in the city as SR2. There's the surrounding area is R4, and the county coming as SR2, and surrounding zonings are SR2. There's an image of the property. And then 2173 St. James Drive would come in the city as SR1, and it was R4 in Charleston County. And you see images of this area and the single family house there. And those are the zoning and rezoning requests.
Correct. So, Madam Clerk, how many people we have signed up to speak?
We have 10.
We have 10 people. We'll give a minute and a half. And again, with public hearings, just want to remind speakers that to honor and respect the rules of decorum. This is not a question and answer. This is for you to come and have your voice heard. We just expect people to be polite, have good manners. I'll give you one warning. If I have to give you a second warning, you'll be asked to leave. So, Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
All right, the time is a minute and a half, and we will start with the in-person list first. Mohammed Idris.
Stay home.
Happy Memorial Day.
Sam, you too.
It started in 1865 or 66. And it was because of the Civil War. And there was thanking the soldiers who gave their life at the Civil War. We have a way of speaking about things and we forget people. I was lied to. I voted for someone and I don't have anything to show for it. The councilman made a reference to the Bible. We have to start living what we are saying and reading and giving to the people. Thank you.
Pastor Broughton.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman Mitchell. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Pastor Carolyn Broughton. I am one of the
Pastor, can you-
pastors at 119 Romney Street. Amen. And we have been there this December, be 26 years. I believe I speak for the heart of the community, the residents, the children. I have watched them grow, but we need to keep it intact so I can keep our hands and our heart for the elders and for the children. We do summer enrichment programs. We're feeding the children. We're helping the mothers in getting their GEDs. So please, don't take that from us. Our children are walking to the church. And so we're expecting great things, but we just want to keep the residents intact. Thank you.
Hosea Wright.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a resident of Romney Street for over 50 years. I'm opposing the ordinance for 126 Romney Street. I have a petition here with all of the residents that will be affected by the rezoning who oppose it as well. I grew up on Romney Street. It's more than just a place on a map. It's where my roots are. Over the years, I've watched Charleston change drastically. Growth can bring opportunity, but what we're experiencing on Romney Street feels overwhelming, especially for those of us who have called this city our home our entire lives. The pace of development is pushing longtime residents to the margins. The rezoning of Romney Street isn't just a small adjustment. It's another step toward overdevelopment. It threatens it threatens to erase the character of the neighborhood.
Time.
So can I make one more statement? With this rezoning, I've learned over this weekend that with the rezoning, there's a house that's across the street from me, and I think he showed it on the video, will be turned into a restaurant. So now we have to deal with other businesses once it's rezoned. So I'm begging you to consider the
Time.
residents when you decide to rezone.
Dimitri Wright.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Dimitri Wright, and I'm here in strong opposition to the rezoning of 126 Romney Street, mainly because this request doesn't reflect the needs or the desires of the people who actually live on Romney Street. So like I say, you've heard from both the speakers who've already spoken and from the speakers who are going to continue to speak that you're going to hear about the ways that the quality of life on Romney Street will worsen with this rezoning. And if I may be frank, what's truly deeply concerning is the fact that the request has made it to the council, even though that not only have we made our opinions known at the zoning commission, we have a petition from many residents of Romney Street who are all in opposition to this. We're the ones who are going to be affected by this rezoning if it's approved. Like I said, I've lived on Romney Street for over 20 years. 4 generations of my family have called Romney Street home. The voices of the people who live there shouldn't be dismissed or sidelined. And I'm urging you to think of the residents of Romney Street when you make your decision. Please listen to those of us who will be impacted the most. Thank you.
Tyler Smith.
Hello. My wife, Michelle, and I have the opportunity to put a large building on King Street back into service after being vacant for approximately 10 years. The property is 1091 King, located at the corner of King and Simmons. We own 126 Romney Street, a currently empty property about a minute's walk away. 1091 King was built in 1992 as a private church schoolhouse that once hosted as many as 800 students each day through the 1990s. After a complete refit, my studio would occupy a portion of the building and we would lease out the rest. We hope to like-minded downtown businesses. The most important reason for the long-time vacancy is the large size with little on-site parking. With parking for 2 vehicles, it has never had any more, and there are no available commercial lots nearby. 126 Romney is our solution to the parking shortage. It's less than 400 feet away and can accommodate the required amount of parking for the building. We've met with the neighborhood twice, and at the second meeting, we received a unanimous vote of support for the parking, a special exception for 1091 Romney, for 1091 King, as long as we can find adequate parking nearby. 126 Romney has a history of business use. We have business license records indicating that it held a barbershop from 1981 to 1993 and had as many as 8 different addresses indicating uses of being used as a boarding house, different units on
Time.
at the same period of time. The block has been historically diverse with a number of churches and other businesses. We believe that activating this building will be a benefit for the neighborhood and will accommodate a number
Time.
of thriving businesses in Charleston's most important commercial corridor. Thank you very much.
Heidi Brown.
For everybody to remind you to please keep the time limit. We're trying to get everybody to have their opportunity to speak.
City Council is urged to deny the overruling of the zoning commission's denial of the zoning change from residential DR1F to limited business. This request runs counter to the city's 2022 revised goals in the master plan to protect the character and quality of an existing neighborhood. This request for a spot zoning change to allow a commercial parking lot also fails all 4 parts of the variance test, section 54-924, establishing hardship, and it is item D pertinent to me. I own the property at 128 Romney Street, and this spot zoning request for a commercial parking lot came as a surprise as no one associated with the project approached me. I have spent considerable time, effort, and money renovating this house here, as his other, and am now building a second structure in the rear. This will be of substantial detriment to the value of my property, and had there been any indication the city would allow this, we would never have bought and invested here. While it is admirable to see the support rally for this motion, it is notable that few, if any, of the supporters live near this property, and none will be affected by the negative aspects. I urge the council members to consider the following questions. 1, will the failure of the variance test for hardship and the denial of spot zoning changed by the Planning Commission be ignored for personal gain? 2, what would any of y'all do
Time.
if the owner of the property next door requested a spot zoning change to build a commercial parking lot next to your home? And
Time.
3, one more. Has the definition of spot zoning and the applicable and associated legalities of such been thoroughly researched by the city? Thank you.
Michelle Smythe.
We get angry now. Good.
Good evening. It's Michelle Smith, and thank you, council members, for allowing this zoning application, this application to be met before you tonight. My husband and I do own the subject property. We have lived in downtown Charleston for over 20 years, and we have lived close by to the property for nearly that amount of time. We've seen the neighborhood change and grow. We have started our own businesses, raised our families in this neighborhood. Our children attended the school just down the street from 126 Romney and 1091 King Street. So we only want to contribute very positively to the redevelopment of not one, but both of these parcels. We find that we are invested in downtown. We want to be invested in the residents, in the residential communities. We see that the scale is changing of development in Charleston, and we see this as benefiting the neighborhood and the immediate residents, not some large scale grand development. My husband and I both practice architecture in and around the Charleston area. I myself served as a DRB board member for 8 years. And so we understand the criticality and the resolve that needs to be brought to even these smaller developments to support the residents of the city of Charleston. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to our online list next. The time is 1.5 minutes, and you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Anthony Bryant.
What you hear today is the city of Charleston has decided to make downtown the piggy bank for tourism, but you're not receiving any money. That's $14 billion. Secondly, what's going on in Zumar Street and the College of Charleston go hand in hand. For the record, Anthony G. Bryant has been fined by the Post and Courier and the Federal Bureau of Investigation as a paper terrorist. So at the end of the day, be very careful with your opposition here, because the mayor can offer you 5 years in jail, not just removing you from the council chamber. You actually can go to jail. Okay, so let's be very clear in terms of the interest downtown, who's making money downtown. You're talking the College of Charleston eating up so much property downtown. It's ridiculous. And now they're going to eat up more property and pay no taxes. We're in here fighting and staying our properties downtown, and we're still getting taxed. So what are you going to do about the $14 billion you're not recapturing in tourism, and the amount of money you letting Union Pier development drain us out of our taxpaying dollars as well? Have a nice day.
Stephen Rosenberg.
Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, my name is Stephen Rosenberg. I'm the president of North Central Neighborhood Association regarding the rezoning request for 126 Romney Street. The North Central Neighborhood Association strongly supports this request as a means to provide sufficient parking for and thereby enable redevelopment of the long vacant school building at 1091 King Street. The NCNA organized a neighborhood process that included an initial presentation by owner Tyler Smith at our March 18th meeting, followed by a special review committee meeting on April 8th to discuss and vote on the matter. The NCNA hand-delivered written notice of this open review committee meeting to approximately 20 directly impacted properties and raised neighborhood awareness of the meeting through our email newsletter. After an overview of Mr. Smith and a Q&A session, the NCNA Review Committee voted unanimously in favor of granting this rezoning request. Though some individual residents and planning commission representatives may not support this request, citing fear of a quote slippery slope, I trust the council to fairly judge the merits of any and all future requests on an individual and independent basis. Additionally, the neighborhood overall has a strong interest in enabling the revitalization and activation of a key nearby corner that is currently undevelopable, and frankly, unsellable due to insufficient off-street parking. The proposed rezone remedies that defect is reasonable and appropriate in scope and context, is in accordance with the city's own master plan, and is thus a fortunate opportunity for a resolution that balances and supports the interests of the neighborhood and the city writ large. As they say in the startup world where I come from, change or die. This rezone request seems a small concession so that the corner anchoring the historic Upper King Street corridor across from the iconic Ellen Bright Hall may live and thrive. North Central encourages council to support this rezone request.
And those were all the speakers that we had. We did receive some comments online. 4 comments were received in support of the rezoning request for 126 Romney Street. 1 comment was received from Sarah Fisher in opposition to the rezoning request for 126 Romney. 1 comment was received from the Preservation Society saying that the proposed updates to TRC procedures were overly broad and could be misapplied to fast-track complex projects where TRC provided important public interest oversight. 1 letter was received from the North Central Neighborhood Association in support of the rezoning request for 126 Romney. And those were all of the comments we received.
Okay, discussion, start with Councilman Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move to suspend the rules for consideration of item 5, so we can take that out of order and consider it first, and move for its approval. Second.
We have a motion made for approval of item 5, probably seconded. Any further discussion on this? Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council member. Both of these properties is in the district I represent, which is the church, the Oswald Reformed Church, and the property at 1 Romney Street. I was pondering over this for a long time, and I found myself in a dilemma here with the properties. I know the reason why the church needs to get rid of the property. You know, they are understrapped and they need to get rid of the property. The property was sitting there for a long time. And I look at it and I said, I don't want the property to stay there until it becomes a problem in the community because it's empty. I understand what's going on with the community, which I represent also, because they don't want to see any changes done. So I looked at it and I pondered on it a while and I said, the best thing for me to do right now, I don't want to vote against the church. I don't want to vote against the property, the residents in the area. So my thing is that I will sustain on this, and I'm doing that for the reason of I don't want to hurt neither one because both of the areas is an area that I represent. So it'd be best for me to abstain on voting on either side. So I'm not voting against either one, the church, nor the residents in the community that I represent. So that'd be my stand on it. I'll let the council members here do the voting on that, on using their heart and their minds and the way they look at it and make that decision based on what they have heard and what they have seen. I know the neighborhood association voted unanimously to approve this. They had a special meeting on a Saturday, which I couldn't attend because I had another meeting going on, and they did it and they approve it highly. But for me, it's best for me right now to abstain on it and not go either way because I'm not going to hurt either side. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchell. Councilman Brady, do you have I'm sorry, Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item number 5, is there no other, I mean, LB seems a bit extreme for a parking lot. I mean, if all they want is parking, there's no other zoning classification that can.
Sure. While we do that, okay, there we go. We'll go to the, oops. So the limited business category was suggested here based on the oops. Not letting me advance.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, we got it. Up here. So the limited business was suggested here because it has limits on hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. It would allow the type of commercial parking that would come from the church renovation that was nearby. But there's already also other limited business in the same block. There's also general business in the same block, which we would never recommend for today because that allows 24-hour-a-day operation of a business. One of those happens to be the Central Mosque, which is obviously a religious institution, so it doesn't have 24-hour-a-day commercial operation. But there are other commercial locations there that could potentially be 24 hours a day. So it's trying to strike a balance between, you know, what's in our comprehensive plan, which is one of our city centers, with the fact that we did know that there were other residences in the surrounding area. Is the block mostly residential? Somewhat, but there also are a number of commercial properties there.
Can I, one quick follow-up?
Yes.
Okay, but LB, just again, if it's not being used for a parking lot, what could it be?
It could be an office. It could be a restaurant. Again, limits of hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. It could be a retail store, those types of things. It could also be residences as well.
What's the height there?
In this location, I believe we're in a 2.5-story district.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Waring?
Mr. Morgan, I think we all trying to find a happy medium here. Because LB is a little bit, can be a little bit aggressive. Help me out. Commercial transition, what's the hours of operation on the commercial transit, on the CT?
It depends on the use. We haven't really used commercial transitional a whole lot in the downtown areas because it has square footage, building footprint change, requirements that are more attuned to suburban locations.
Right.
It wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility to use here. It might limit the types of uses that could go in the former church over on King Street if they are not allowed currently in the CT district, because CT is a little bit tighter on its uses than the LB.
But the hours of operation on CT is a lot.
They're very similar. They're very similar. There are some retail operations that CT limits to like 8 or 9 p.m., I believe. And then there are some office uses that I think are limited to like 7 or something
Right,
like that.
7 o'clock, right.
Yes, sir.
If they're gonna be using it for office, the big building on King Street, and we all want to see that come back to life because it's certainly been vacant too long. If that office space use CT, if they use this for parking, is there a way we can kind of keep some parameters on that to where basically at 7, maybe 8 o'clock is done?
We typically have not enforced regulations on parking for a nearby lot like that as far as the hours of operation. The hours of operation relate to the structure itself and when that business is open. The parking areas typically have not been regulated from that standpoint, other than they have to have a zoning for them that is similar to the use that they're parking for.
But it is related, right? Because this building is using, these folk are using this lot for parking to accommodate the needs in the building.
Correct,
Right,
yes, sir.
okay? So, I mean, is there a way? I mean, if it was on general business, I mean, I keep saying general business, forget general business. If it was on general office, if this lot was on general office, could it be used for parking for the building on King Street?
Potentially, I do believe the applicant, the rezoning applicant, is interested in having a cafe, small cafe in the building. You might want to ask the applicant that
I mean,
question.
but a cafe in the big building or at this location?
In the big building.
Oh, yeah,
King.
at the
Yes,
big
sir.
building,
I
right?
believe that's correct, but again, I would suggest asking the applicant that question.
But again, not the applicant. I mean, what we're trying to find an answer to is for these people to park a reasonable hour without the aggressive uses and limited business being able to come in that location.
I think our resident attorney
And
has some.
someone's about to get
Oh, you,
good,
Councilman.
free legal advice.
Yeah.
This is a great example of how traditional zoning is just absurd, okay? Because what this is fundamentally a problem about parking minimums that we eliminated on a large swath of King Street several years ago. Why is this even an issue? Is because these great people want to breathe life back into the structure on King Street that exists, that doesn't accommodate parking on site. Probably zoning didn't exist when the building was built, certainly not in the form that it is right now, but it can't be activated because they need to show parking. So what does that mean? They have to now go into a neighborhood and try to find parking within a certain defined radius, right? So the problem is to solve that issue, and to Councilmember Parker's point, we're having to use this ridiculously blunt instrument of a base zoning change to an intense commercial, not the most intense, but a pretty intense commercial district. So you're going to get a pink strip slicing down that residential block, which will make it easier for the next person to come along adjacent to it and get another LB and this, that, and the other. So there are several different approaches that can be taken here. One would be we eliminate parking minimum requirements on this stretch of King, which would be tremendous, but I'm going to just resist that because that's just too exciting. The more scalpel approach would be for them to apply for a parking variance from the BZA. If the BZA doesn't grant it, appeal it, take it to this council, we'll approve the settlement to allow you guys to park this here. The other option would be to do a use variance with the BZA, but there's really no reason to do that, I would just go to the BZA and say, eliminate the need for parking. We'll figure out parking on our own, but that's only going to work if they don't actually need the parking. If they actually need the parking, then go into the BZA for a use variance to just allow parking on that site, pegged to the use on King Street, have it very narrowly tailored so the only use that's being allowed is parking. It doesn't throw open the table of uses to restaurants and all these other kind of things. So you go in with a scalpel. There's a lot of different ways this can be solved. It's got to go through the BZA first. If the BZA doesn't grant the relief, the applicant can appeal it. We can handle it. So there are alternatives to an LB. I think we all want to see the Smiths succeed. I think we all want to see the King Street building reactivated. And I just think we can avoid such a blunt instrument like an LB rezoning, which is what the neighborhood is all concerned about. So I think there's a perfect solution here. Unfortunately, it's not something we can grant today, but I think without a whole lot of delay, this can be brought back on track and we can get a pretty elegant solution to this. So that would be my suggestion, and that's the pro bono legal advice here.
Councilman Waring.
Well, back to Councilman Appel. So the action step going back would be what? I know we can defer, but what is the action step that
Well, it depends. I mean, the Smiths need to decide, do they want to physically put cars on this lot or not? If they don't, and this minimum parking requirement is just an annoyance, they can just go in for a variance to be relieved of the minimum parking requirement. If they actually want to park the property, then they would need to apply for what's called a use variance from the BZA. It still goes to the same place, slightly different. The use variance requires a 2/3 vote from the BZA. But either way, there's a strategy with going to the BZA to get more of a narrowly tailored solution here.
So our staff will explain the specifics of that to the applicant.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Who's that? Robert Summerfield.
Oh, okay. Hi, so I just wanted to piggyback on Councilman Appel's comments. So the applicant already has an application in before the BZA for a special exception for relief from the parking requirement for the King Street renovation. As I think you heard during public comment, though, they did the route with the request for the rezone because the neighborhood still wanted them to find parking in order for them to support the special exception to eliminate their parking requirement for the renovation at the King Street location. So we do have an active application that was deferred by the Board of Zoning Appeals pending the outcome of this rezoning request. So that is an active application that can go back before the Board of Zoning Appeals at our next available meeting, which would be the second meeting in June, I believe, at this point, where the question about approving basically no parking at the King Street location could come through. Staff was in support of that application. So that is something that is still an option. Again, as Councilman Appel said, the bigger question is, do they in fact believe that there is sufficient accessible parking that's not on this property to support their proposed tenants? Or do they actually feel like they need to physically be able to use this property for parking? At which case, the use variance would be the next question, and that would be something we could help the applicant with.
Councilman Seekings.
So I have a question about the two lots and their relation to each other. Does the applicant own both of those pieces of property?
Yes.
They own them both. And as you go along, I drive up there all the time, as you get off the highway there, right? Is there a sidewalk along there on the north side of Romney Street?
There is. There's sidewalks on both sides of the street.
So the question that I don't know the answer to, I don't know if anybody does, do they need the parking? Actually need to park that space? Or are they just doing this to meet a zoning requirement? Because it's just to meet a zoning requirement. That's crazy, and we can fix it. If they actually need the parking, then we need to talk about whether we want to build a parking lot in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I just want to know which conversation we're having. What is it?
Councilman Seekings, the neighborhood association has been stridently opposed to on-street parking or not having an off-street parking solution for this renovation that Mr. Smith is talking about doing. And they've stridently opposed the BZA request. And so that is why he is also looking at the rezoning request.
Well, that's why then we get to do our job, right? And we got to think about this. This is a conundrum and a quandary. And, parking is not the highest and best use in a residential neighborhood. We've had that debate just a month ago. Don't want to rehash it again. But you all know how I feel about that. I've got at least 3 compatriots sitting around here. This one's a little different though. I mean, my understanding is this is going to be an architecture office in a defunct building that will have a light traffic use at best. How many parking spaces can you put on that very narrow piece of property? Has anybody mapped that out?
I think there were about 18. Again, that hasn't been reviewed fully from a zoning compliance standpoint, but that was about the amount of parking that our codes require for the building. It's a fairly substantial building at the corner of Simmons and King. That's the former church, but it's 2 stories. It's going to be more than just an architecture office.
I mean, my suspicion is that around this table, we would like the least intrusive solution to a zoning problem that we've created through our zoning code without building a parking lot in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I mean, because that's going to be a super slippery slope. Once that goes, and I saw what you put for a comprehensive plan, but it's going to just could keep falling domino by domino. Certainly, I mean, the presentation that the owners have made and what they want to do is fantastic, but we've got to carve something that's just not completely intrusive in building a parking lot in the middle of a residential block where people are walking down the road in the rain, in the cold, all that stuff to get to a building.
Councilman Gregory.
Did you say there are 18 spots available or 18 spots needed?
I think Mr. Smith had looked at this site and determined he could put 18 spots on it. Now, we do have some buffering requirements, fencing, things like that. I'm not sure if that might intrude into that number.
And how many existing parking spaces are there associated with this building?
The building there's the lot on Romney? Oh, you're talking about the lot on King.
Right.
Yes, there's just 2 street spaces.
So there are only 2 assigned?
Yes, sir.
I thought there were more than that. Just 2? Okay, all right. Great zoning.
So Any further discussion on this or entertain a motion? There is a motion to approve on the floor.
Second.
I think the motion to defer should include, or let's hear what happens at the BZA, and then we can take this up.
Yes.
Quickly.
That would be the action step.
Right.
Okay,
I'll
if
make
the
a-
motion is made and seconded to defer, my only comment on this would be, let's encourage the applicant to look for creative solutions and let the BZA know that we are very supportive of something happening on King Street to allow for that. So with that, we have a motion to defer and a
Would that be a-
second.
Mayor, would that be amendment to,
I'm sorry?
what you were saying there, would that be amendment to what the motion is being made that, with the BZA?
Well, just for the record is what I put it on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion for defer.
Just really quick question before I vote. When is the next BZA meeting?
You said the
Mr.
second-
Chairman?
Middle of June.
Yeah, it would be the second meeting in June. I believe that's the June 17th.
And we're gonna make sure this is on that?
Yes, sir.
So there's only one council meeting in June.
Right.
That's June 17th.
Well,
We have a motion for deferral, the seconded. Any further discussion on
it's
this?
a question.
Yeah.
Closing. Is this going to affect this project in any way? I mean, there's a closing date, isn't there? When is that? And how would this affect that? Can there be an extension? I mean, to me, that's a fundamental question here. When is closing scheduled for?
Mr. Smith?
One point that was made earlier is not actually accurate. We don't own 1091 King yet. So there was a point,
Right.
we
Oh,
don't
fair
own
enough.
it.
Yeah.
We have it, we have it under contract.
Correct.
To purchase. As far as the parking goes, a question of do we need parking? This is a 10,000 square foot building that we would like to lease for executive office space. So to have, 12 or 14 offices and no guarantee of parking is going to make it very challenging to market. And so I don't know if we can actually lease the space. We wouldn't buy the building unless we had a guaranteed way to park cars. It's as easy as that. It's going to be a massive investment, not only to acquire, but to refit the building.
Thank you.
Follow up, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Grover?
Have you considered vertical parking?
I'm sorry, sir?
Vertical parking?
I've not. No, sir.
Because there is a way, perhaps even on those two spaces, that you can go up vertically. There's these machines now that you can park in, and there are a number of them in the city already. There's one on Bogart Street, and I think it houses there are two of them, and I think they house about 10 cars vertically.
I think that's probably for a short-term rental application. We're going to be business office space, so I don't believe that the rents we're going to be able to command might be able to, offer that investment as an opportunity.
Councilman Seekings?
Is your contract to purchase the King Street property contingent on something happening with you being able to park along here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
And do you have a closing date?
We do. The closing date is in the middle of July. I can't remember exactly what. It's based, these dates roll into one another.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because the city council hearing in June 17th is the same date as the BZA, just getting pushed on a little farther.
Let's vote.
Councilman Waring?
I'm just curious, can the BZA push their meeting up one day? No, I mean, we would know a lot. I mean,
They can.
why can't they? I mean, if they push their meeting up for 4 hours, a lot will be known when we meet.
I think there's some notice requirements that would not be able to necessarily be met by virtue of
But,
that.
and also, as I understand the current application is for minimum parking requirements on the King Street property. And what they're saying is, the applicant is saying is they need parking. They do need parking. So I think the path that we would be looking at as a potential compromise is what Councilman Appel pointed out, would be a special use exception for that site. So that would have to do a new application for the BZA and start the process there. And if that's a condition that we all can support, I think that the seller could have confidence that's a positive path forward, might agree to extend the contract.
So how can we expedite that, Mr. Mayor?
So, Mr. Mayor, through you, so if we're doing a new use permit application, I have time, to Mr. Morgan's point, if the applicant gets with me tomorrow morning, we can get an application for that use permit or the use variance be started. And I believe I will have enough time to meet my noticing deadlines for that meeting, if I can get that application quickly. Because I think my due date is Thursday for that agenda to submit to the newspaper. So if I can quickly turn around a use variance application, I should be able to get that item on for the 17th as well.
All right, thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Okay, is that something you can do expediently?
Yes, sir. Like I said,
Yeah, I'm
the
talking to,
application deadline passed, but we'll get it done this week so we can meet our noticing requirements and have it on the new use variance request on for the June 17th date as well.
So you can be able to get to our plan director by the time?
I can do what I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Try to get this resolved if we can.
So
I'm trying to assist and trying to work with both sides, with everyone concerned. So that's why I'm asking you if you'll be able to get with him tomorrow, and so he can try to get this done, to try to assist you and the sister church and the sister community. So I'm looking at all in the,
I will do what I can. I have a meeting first thing in the morning, but I'm not busy all day tomorrow, and I can certainly get with him before the end of the day. Thank you.
all right, we have a motion made, probably seconded.
Very quickly, I just think, to sort of wrap this up, it's incumbent on us to go see if we can find the least intrusive solution, but to find a solution that meets the realities of what you need, which you've now told us is not only do you need that variance, you need some parking. So that's, I think, our mission, that we are supportive of you, but we got to see if we can find the least intrusive, because you're in a neighborhood, and look, that's what we are obliged to do. And if it puts us off 3 weeks, we've done our job, but ultimately we need to activate that building.
Agreed. All right, we have a motion made to defer, probably seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one nay.
One nay counts. All right, one nay count. Mr. Mayor, just for the record, we have one nay from Councilmember Shealy and Councilmember Mitchell. You're still abstaining?
No.
Or no?
Defer.
Okay. All right, so there's just one nay, Councilmember Shealy.
Okay, so we've taken up item 4, item 5. Any further discussion on the remaining items? And entertain a motion, Councilman
move for
Parker.
approval.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Second.
Item 4, can you tell me the height district, can you show the heights again, the whole old city height district 4 to 5 and 8?
So in other words, the entire area that is within the pink here is right now Old City Height District 4. And this would change it to a 5 and an 8. The 8 would be at the middle of the block where it is abutting the tall parking deck and the Bell South buildings. So most of that would be hidden. It would also be somewhat hidden by virtue of the stair step down of the portions of the building at 5 and 4 stories along Cumming Street and Vandross Street.
Okay, and will they be granted, if through the BZA they meet certain exceptions, will they be granted another story?
Well, you can ask for another story through BAR. The college has committed that they would max it at 8 stories if they got this height change. They would not go to the extra story that could be allocated by BAR. They would go with the heights that are there.
And then one last question on that. So surrounding, what's the tallest building?
Well, the parking deck, I believe, ends up being about 6 stories. Let's see if we can see it from this. We have it in the
Yeah, I think you
images.
had another picture.
Yeah, yeah. So the parking deck is right there. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 stories for the parking deck. And then you've got 4 to 5 along the Vandross Street frontage.
Okay, thank you.
Just quickly on that, council member, this is a really good and popular idea. This is something the college has been working on for a long time to bring students back onto and around campus. We've actually encouraged them to go even taller, but they've stuck it to where they are. This is going to be transformative in the neighborhoods and get students back on campus. It's a terrific plan, and I would encourage everybody to support it.
Okay, Councilman Mitchell?
Yeah, this is what Councilman Seekers was saying. This is what they're trying to do is having these young people to be back on campus and living in these particular places so they can move them out of the community. And this will help out a whole lot. And I spoke with the owner over a number of times pertaining to this. And I said, this is a good idea, because I said, this even would help maybe bring some prices down a little bit, in the community, but they'll have all the freshmen, so to speak, to be living in these dormitories here instead of scattered all out through the community. And I think that's one of the things we were asking for a long time ago, to have the College of Charleston, that they can have these young people who's freshmen staying in these particular dorms instead of in the community, because I'm telling you, we have a lot of problems. And even the district I represent, I can tell you the problems we're having with the young people coming in, because you're away from home. And when you're away from home, you're away from home.
Right.
Because I remember those
That's right.
days. Okay, thank you.
2 teenagers. Well, we have a motion for approval for these all the items in E with the
It's 1 through 4 and 6 through 9.
1 through 4 and 6 through 9. Made properly seconded, Councilwoman Parker.
I have a question on 6.
Okay.
I don't know if this went to committee. I mean, I would certainly like to discuss it further in committee. I don't know if my fellow council members feel that way. I don't want to vote for it as is. I believe we have too much bureaucracy as it is. I know how difficult our TRC process can be, but I do think we need to find a happy medium here. So I would make a motion to defer it to Public Works. But if I don't get a second, that's fine. I think, did we?
We did, and I think the point on this is to actually provide more efficiency than to more red tape.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, I'll remove my motion, but I can't vote for it at this time.
So we have a motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? 1 nay.
All right, there's 1 nay on item 6, Councilmember Parker.
What?
I was saying there's 1 nay for item 6, Councilmember Parker.
Okay,
Mr.
next
Mayor-
on our agenda
Wait,
is
Mr. Mayor.
approval of council minutes.
Mr. Mayor, before you go forward, I didn't want to bring this up until the motion got carried, the change in collection of stormwater fee.
Right.
There's a little homework. No, I'm not going to talk about that. I congratulate all of us on that. But there's a little bit of homework left on that, in that we literally had businesses that would look at their water bill monthly and subtract the stormwater fee off, because they knew CWS couldn't cut off their water. So they would pay the water bill, they would pay the sewer bill, and they would subtract the stormwater fee every month. Well, there's a balance due out there, and I think the city is over 7 figures. The city should go out and collect it. As a matter of fact, Councilman Appel, a couple of years ago, we've been talking about this, had a good idea about having those debts given to a debt collector to be collected, because those are dollars that could go into stormwater fixes in everyone out our community. And this change is going to bring about another 6 million or so to the city, which can bond. We have our CFO over there, and she'll get me for saying this after the meeting, but not now, so I'm gonna say it, somewhere around 50 to 60 million can bond the capacity to fix drainage problems on James Island, West Ashley, Upper Peninsula, and the city at large, because of efficiency in collection. So, but those who literally didn't pay the debt shouldn't get away with it.
Agreed.
So if we can get those totals from CWS and hopefully debt collector, let's get the money into the city so we can fix more drainage.
I like it.
Thank you.
Let me look into it. Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Waring, I'm so glad that you said that. All this hard work deserved your commentary. So I'm glad that you reminded everyone what that one was for, because it is a big deal. So thank you.
Agreed. Okay, we now need a motion for approval of city minutes.
Move.
Hang a second. Okay, motion made, probably second, approval of minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. We're now on to citizens' participation. Madam Clerk, how many people do we have signed up?
We have 7.
All right, I'm gonna give everybody a minute and a half.
All right.
Minute and a half.
And we will start with our in-person list first, and we go with agenda items first. Roy Neal. And the time is a minute and a half.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. I will stay brief. I'm here to show support for Chief Walker and council's activity on the curfew, juvenile curfew. It is desperately needed. I have spoke with numerous restaurant owners, including Mr. Benjamin, who owns Uptown Social and Share House, and we share that part of the entertainment district, and we need help. It's a growing problem, but as I said on the news interview last night, I appreciate y'all taking an action, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I have confidence in this committee to find a real solution. So thank you for the action. And I also like to thank the city council people that came out on Friday night and walked the streets with Chief Walker. It was very impressive. Thank you.
Zach Bisudi.
We want to promote fair and equal opportunities for all individuals and business entities interested in doing business with the city. That's the mission and goal of the procurement office. We today talked about extending the pedicab to a 10-year contract to honor the investments that were made for the current operators, because our acquiring a few tags threatens their business. Very strange. We are looking for a toehold. I'd ask you to think about who you are protecting, because here's the last bid. The collusion, 640, 630, splitting the tags, 10, 10, 10. This is who you are protecting. The collusion, you might not be complicit, but you are facilitating and enabling that because you have literally driven out 2 local competitors by repeatedly withdrawing this. It takes investments, and we've made those prerequisite investments, but you are not moving on it, and you're just squashing the little man. 10 years? How is a new entity supposed to arise in that exact tiny moment and capture any ability to start a business? It's crazy. And who are you protecting? They're paying you 40 cents a day. You take this number, you divide it by the number of days, and that's what they're paying you.
Time.
Why? Why are you constantly pulling this bid?
Time. Mohammed Idris.
I place 2 items on you to each councilman. And I'll be speaking Sunday from Chicago. And I will be telling them about this city council here. Words make people. And a word is anything that sends a message to your mind. History is best qualified to reward all research. In the history of this city, the city that I was born in, the city that I've loved and supported, is that we as a people open up in the name of God. You should try to do the best you can to do what God wants you to do and not with your neighbor. Thank you.
Marcus McDonald. Jerome Harris.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. There's a question that sometimes asked, how are the children? If you look at the findings of the curfew ordinance, it suggests that the children under 17 are a threat to public health, safety, and general welfare. That is a challenge that we have. The police department's need for additional requirements for enforcement to move along in particular situations is important. But what is as important is the community coming together in response to the chief's requests for resources, strategy. The Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission members have been talking amongst ourselves on online, approached by others to suggest that now's the time for the city to take a look at its youth service activities. Coordinate. Tonight you approved a contract for state approval activity. You've been asked for money to support recreation basketball. The question is, what is the coordination? How can other organizations work with the city to make certain that our children are safe, are not committing crime, and contributing positively to the community? And I urge you to support that activity and invite you to the June 12th meeting of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, where we'll be having some discussion about that. Thank you.
Deborah says. Sorry if I mispronounced the last name. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. This year, I attended my first Charleston demonstration to express my feelings about current affairs in the middle of Hampton Park. We had requested to be in front of City Hall. Then we submitted a permit to demonstrate in front of Lindsey Graham's office. Again, the location was changed to the middle of Hampton Park. Now I see that yet another request for a permit to demonstrate in Marion Square on June 14th was denied the location, but awarded the center of Hampton Park. I'm reminded by something my 8th grade science teacher asked the class, quote, "If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, did it make a sound?" Unquote. That is exactly what I asked when we were protesting in the middle of Hampton Park. Our forefathers knew that change begins with the people speaking up. To preserve our democracy, we must let our leaders know where we stand on issues. This city ordinance goes against our First Amendment rights on several levels and allows the powers to be to interpret the ordinance however they want. Actually, having to obtain a permit to exercise our First Amendment rights is a form of oppression. I implore you to either change the ordinance to exercising the exemption clause or give us permits where our voices can be heard. Thank you.
And Mr. Bryant had signed up to speak online, but I don't think he is on there anymore. We did receive one comment from him online that was sent to council in full. I believe those are all the speakers that we had.
All right, now moving on to petitions and communications. We have an appointment of Tammy O'Berry as the director, the new HR director. Can I entertain a motion? Motion made, probably seconded. I'm excited about her joining the team. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Next up is the approval of BZA zoning appointments. Can I entertain a motion? A motion made, properly seconded. Any further discussion on these early appointments? Appreciate them doing the work. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Now we are on to approval of a mediation settlement agreement, and legal counsel is available if anybody has any questions. This is related to 68 Spring Street.
Move for approval.
We have motion made, properly seconded. Any questions of our legal? Councilman Brady.
Yeah, I know several of us had received emails from the public about this. If the settlement is approved, will that be made available to the public for their edification?
It should be in your materials.
Okay. Just making sure that if we put it out when it's approved, because we were getting a lot of things before it had come out as well, and I don't think everybody was fully briefed on it.
The full mediation settlement and the corresponding exhibit with the mediated designer and your materials that were in the agenda.
Beautiful.
All right. We have a motion made, probably second. Any further discussion on this? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Now we are on to the approval to rent the bus shed for the city of Charleston's Juneteenth celebration. We need to expedite this because it's coming up. We have motion made, probably seconded. There's no cost on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. We have one item, well, actually two. I'm gonna bring one up, but Councilman Brady has some thoughts on
Yes.
summer heat.
I am modeling the summer wear, just so we can all see the building did not burn down when I came in without the tie on. I do not always do that. I always have a bow tie. I always have a bow tie on. I always have a bow tie on. But we already do this basically for committee meetings. You know, a lot of us are coming in and out of work and whatnot. And I just thought it'd be nice to try it out for the summer while we are only doing one meeting during the summer, and also knowing that the meetings are going to be a little longer, as well as our committee meetings. And so just want to put it forward for kind of a consent of council though there is no, as Madam Clerk had pointed out, there is nothing in the ordinance or the rules of council that requires what I like to call stuffy dress, because I'm not a banker or a lawyer, that we would be able to do that during the summer and just see how it goes, because we're not going to get struck by lightning or anything if we do that.
Okay.
Although the mayor's mom may be upset if he doesn't wear a tie.
But yeah, I made the point to Councilman Gray, happy to discuss it, go the will of council. I will still wear a coat and tie, probably a suit. My mother is watching and I do not want to get in trouble. So
That's what I said.
Councilman Gregory.
There currently aren't any restrictions.
Right.
So what's the issue?
There are other municipalities that do it as well, formally adopt during the summer. And so I just wanted to see if there would be a consent that it was okay to do that, because right now it's just more of a peer pressure aspect, as when Councilmember Appel has to apologize when he forgets his tie in his office.
Right.
Councilman Mitchell.
I understand what he's saying. I mean, in committee meetings, because sometimes we're on Zoom, we don't dress up, we don't have certain tie. But I believe when we come in this council chambers and be a legislative body, I believe we should dress appropriately. That's just my point of view on it. So everyone have their own point of view, but that's just my point of view. When you come to this committee meeting, I can understand it, because committee meetings you just have opening. But when you come to the legislative body here and be discussing things for the city of Charleston and the legislative body, I think we should dress appropriately with tie on. That's just my opinion. That's just me. I don't know how you all think about it, but this is what I think of it. And I'll be wearing my shirt and tie too.
Well, since there's no official rule on this, we promise maybe not to peer pressure anybody that might decide to not wear a tie or.
We'll just look down on you. That's.
Okay. Any other commentary or questions or thoughts on this? I have one other thing I'd like to bring up. Wanted to just remind everybody about a challenge that was presented to us by a resident of Johns Island for trying to get out to his house for a beer. He, wanted to bet a beer or something to that effect. Steak. Okay. Well, all the better. So I have taken him up on this and plan on seeing if I can make it out there on Friday, the 13th. So I just wanted to let it be known that I am going to participate, and I welcome any other council members who'd like to partake to do so, and we can get you the details. But it's currently scheduled for Friday, the 13th.
And one quick comment, part of the delay, you were able to do this earlier. I was out of town. So now when we do this, school will be out of session, so it'll be easier to get there.
Right, yes.
I just want to point that out. It's a full disclosure. It was not intentional to make it that
If
way.
there's an extra lane on Maybank, it'll be all the easier now. Okay, just want to let everybody know about that. If there are no further items, we were going to move on to committee reports. I'd like to call on Councilman Gregg for Ways and Means.
Move for approval.
Motion made, properly seconded.
I guess note that item number 10 was deferred.
Note item number 10 was deferred. We have a motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. We are now up to bills for second reading. There are 5 bills up for second reading.
Move for approval 1 through 5.
We have a
Well-
motion made for approval all through.
Wait. So number 3 is getting withdrawn. The applicant has requested that item be withdrawn.
Okay,
So it's 1 and 2, 4 through 6.
1, 2, 4, and 6.
we have a motion made, properly seconded for 1, 2, 4, and 6. And 5? No.
1, 2, no. 1 and 2, 4 through 6, and 3 will be
2.
withdrawn.
4 through 6. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Now we are up to,
Reading.
first reading?
Third reading.
Excuse me, third reading, right.
Move.
Second. A motion made, properly seconded for third reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Bless you. We are now up to first reading.
We
The
only have
ordinance
one.
on the juvenile curfew. Can I entertain a motion?
Second.
A motion made, properly to second. Any further discussion on this one? Councilman Brady?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologize that I think this is the most I've spoken in a meeting in probably like a full year.
Timing you.
Lots of opinions tonight. No, but I did want to thank you for bringing this forward, and also for Councilmember Tinkler, Councilmember Bowden, State Senator Sutton for going out and walking with us on last Friday. I then had an opportunity to engage with about 50 juveniles on Saturday who had decided at our neighborhood HOA pool to jump the fence and take some Ubers in from out of the area and begin partying on HOA-owned property. So I'd like to add that this is not just a problem downtown. This is a citywide problem, and it's also not just a problem here. The Winston-Salem, where I went to college, has had a significant problem. They're imposing a curfew on their downtown as well for gangs of juveniles that are causing problems to the downtown area, not just for residents, but for visitors, business owners, and everything else. So I just want my colleagues to know, and I'm sure that some of the other council members will bring up some local ordinances here in South Carolina. But growing up when I was in high school, the city of Virginia Beach had a curfew, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you were under 18. They weren't trying to target you coming back from the movies or getting an ice cream or anything that are all the emails and Facebook messages we've got. I mean, this was to be able to be used to be contacted to stop serious crimes and more serious things from escalating. So, I plan on voting in favor of this, especially with my occurrences this weekend. And I would encourage my colleagues, we can always come back and revisit it. As we say about anything, we're not bound to just have it in perpetuity. But I think that given that there seems to be a rise in parents, I don't know that it's necessarily free range parenting when you're 17 years old and letting your 17 or 14-year-old just kind of do whatever. But deciding to let your child just do whatever and expecting society to bear the consequences is something that we should not be encouraging. And I would encourage my colleagues to vote in favor of this. And if there are some amendments, time, that type of thing, we can have that discussion as well.
Councilman Bowden.
I do want to keep this on track to pass so that it will be useful over the summer. So, I just ask that we sort of consider some changes between now and second reading. I understand the reasoning, and thanks to Chief Walker for taking us out there on Friday night. It's the latest I've been up in a while. And sure enough, my kid did wake me up at 5 a.m. the next day. So 9 p.m. So I just want to echo some of the feedback that I've gotten. 9 p.m. is awfully early. And I understand the reasoning for it. And it was primarily because that's when the bars start carding and there start being fewer places for juveniles to be legally. And so it leads to, congregation on the streets, which was, goes against all the other changes that have occurred on King Street and worked successfully. So, certainly agree with that. And Councilmember Seekings made that point at the committee meeting, which I thought was correct. This is generally kind of a continuation of all the other safety improvements that have been made on Upper King. I still just think that 9 p.m. is awfully early. I think it captures, some segment of kids that would be doing, absolutely nothing wrong, just sort of moving about their time. And I understand the part about enforcement and frankly, CPD doesn't have the resources to be stopping every single, young looking person. As if I didn't have a beard, they might still be stopping me down there. But, so I understand that part of it, but I would just suggest, taking a look and seeing if maybe there's some data that supports a 10 p.m., maybe even 11, just in response to the feedback I've gotten. I think that's an appropriate consideration. The other thing is providing exceptions for, some of the venues. I think Councilmember Tinkler brought up at the committee meeting, the Music Farm, and the response was those concerts are mostly 18 and over. That's probably true. Again, I don't do fun things anymore, but most is not all. So I think we can stipulate that there's probably a few concerts that would allow people under the age of 18 to get in, that might end beyond 9 p.m. So I'd like an answer to that question, whether those exist, and what sort of exceptions that we can provide for those spaces. TD Arena, certainly, College Charleston basketball games. Part of me just feels like kids' lives were so difficult and so altered during COVID, that I just really hesitate to take something away from kids' ability to be normal, go on a date on a Friday night or whatever. And I'd really like this to specifically be a sunset, or a pilot policy. Over the summer, it makes perfect sense. We all, know that kids have more free time. We see an uptick in all sorts of things over the summer that are particularly desirable. And so I think it makes sense for it to be in place over the summer, which is why I don't want to, slow this down at all. I think we need to start moving towards that. But I would like to come back and reevaluate it after the summer. I know that, it was asked for at the committee meeting that there would be a report back in, 60, 90 days, whatever, felt appropriate. But I don't know that we have enough time to establish a statistical baseline today to compare that to. So I'd like to come back and have sort of a fresh new discussion after the summer when we can get some more feedback, maybe look at some numbers, and have something to compare it to know whether it worked or not, or if we're just sort of putting additional burdens on otherwise law-abiding folks. But I thanked Chief Walker on Friday night. I'll thank him again for bringing this forward so we can consider it now before the problem gets out of hand. And I will say, talking to officers who are walking up and down King Street every weekend, they did provide a little bit more insight into what all is going on down there and the problem that they're trying to solve, to the extent that I felt comfortable voting for it and moving forward with everything. So just appreciate y'all considering those suggestions, and maybe we can have a discussion about some of those at the next meeting, which I'll actually be in California for. But
All right, Councilman, Greg? No, you're good? Mitchell?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. That's why I'm happy to see you all came down and tour King Street like I asked. I said, you know, I live there and I be down there all the time. And I said, that's why most of the time you don't see some of my West Ashley fellas come down here anymore in the peninsula, you know, and so this was going on a long, long time. That's why I was encouraging you all to come and go on King Street and see what's happening on King Street. And you might not see the outside. I don't know if the chief had a chance to take you around the perimeter outside of the King Street where these garages are too. There's a lot of things happening in these garages also. And so it's a lot of happening. I mean, if they want to change it to 10 o'clock, I don't think the chief would have no problem with that, but 10 o'clock on up, you know, 10 o'clock, whatever. But something need to be done. We have to start somewhere. And we always mention on public safety that we're going to look at it, even with a pilot program. We'll look at it, we'll come back and make adjustment along the way, you know, when we see things have changed a lot. But summer months is coming. And I think you have, if you read the paper, you have heard that so much things are happening already and it's not even out there yet. You're seeing shooting happening and you're seeing this happening in schools and some of these things are going to be happening more. And we are trying to save, if we can, as much young people as we possibly can. Because they're going to get into a whole lot of things out here because even in our, like with the mayor, I'm going to get back with the mayor, we have to get back with our recreation department and try to get more done in our recreation to have things here for these young people to do during the summer months, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to be working on that pretty hard too because it's a lot of things that we don't have here that we should have. And I mentioned to Mr. Mayor before that recreation was #1 here in this area, the City of Charleston Recreation Department. To me now it's dropped down to #10 to me to see what's going on with recreation in certain areas. So we got to do better. We have to do much better. And I can tell you, I'll be out there, so I'm not talking about on top of my head. I'm talking about what I see because I'm out there more so than a lot of my colleagues sometimes, you know. But I'm out there on the parks, different parks, and seeing what's happening and seeing the changes that took place that we don't have a lot of things going on these facilities for our young people. So what they do? Head down King Street. Oh, everything is happening there, so this is what they're doing. So we got to have things here to stop them from doing this, have something for them to do to keep them busy, you know, and maybe by 10 o'clock they might be tired and stay home, just saying, you know. But this is what we have to do. But it's going to be a pilot program, and we're going to come back and really address it. And as it goes along, we can always get with the mayor and have the chief to come in and say, look, we're seeing things kind of winding down or whatever the case may be. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you make really good points. This is something then, we're trying this out. We can come back to it. This is not permanent, but this is something that I think is a good place to start. It's what our chief has asked for. I think we should try and figure out how to expedite, but I'm all for figuring out, you know, how to come back and look at it, see what's working, what's not working, and adjust accordingly. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Councilman Waring.
I was just going to reiterate the point that Councilmember Bowden may come back at maybe 90 days, I don't know, at the end of the summer and kind of check the data with the chief. And I know the chief is data laden, but your points are well taken. We need to come back and assess. So same thing.
Yeah, I mean, my only suggestion to this council would be that we approve it and then like as requested by the chief and without amendments, and then come back with the understanding that we will be amending it and see how it plays out this summer. And if we have issues, then by all means, we make it later. We, you know, put some exceptions in there for entertainment venues that have proven to be of concern. So that would be my recommendation. We have a motion, or Councilman Greg?
I wasn't going to speak, but I mean, as a parent of a 19, 17, 13-year-old, I can tell you, I don't want my kids anywhere near King Street at 9 o'clock. If I find out they are down there, I'm making a call to that guy to go find them. So there's just no reason for a 17-year-old to be in that anywhere around there on King Street. So, yeah, that's from a parental perspective. That's what I would tell you.
So we have a motion to approve that has been seconded. We'll get to you.
Another comment?
Have we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. Councilman McBride.
Yeah, just, there's, seems to be overwhelming support for this, in the public, but there are some, understandable concerns about, over restriction. And, I'm all about freedom, as much freedom as possible, but at the same time, we have to ensure safety. And I trust, Chief Walker's judgment on this, that this is needed, otherwise it wouldn't be coming to us. And I do want to point out for those who are concerned about being too restrictive and infringing on rights, I'm going to read two exceptions, the last two exceptions, number 6 and number 7, just for the public is aware of this. That the juveniles attend, this is an exception to this ordinance. The juveniles attending an activity sponsored by a school, religious or civic organization, by a public organization or agency, or by another similar organization or entity, which activity is supervised by adults, et cetera, et cetera. So they can be out if they're attending an event like that. And also, number 7, probably the most important, the juveniles exercising First Amendment rights protected by the United States Constitution, including free exercise of religion, freedom of speech, and the right of assembly. So those are exceptions specifically written in the ordinance, which is why I support this.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right. I think that concludes our council agenda. Our next council meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 17th. If there's no further order of business,